State Capitol Police have recommended nearly 40 charges of fraud and forgery against a former state employee for allegedly stealing from a state program to help people living with AIDS and HIV.
It is the latest on a story we first brought you last month. News 3's Jessica Arp investigates missing money in the Department of Health Services.
Well, this money is intended for low-income people in Wisconsin living with AIDS and HIV to help them pay for insurance and prescription costs. And according to police, a former state employee made a practice of intercepting checks for personal use. A nearly year-long investigation inside the Department of Health Services AIDS and HIV drug assistance program has now resulted in 37 recommended charges of forgery and theft by fraud against a former employee. According to police reports released to News 3, an anonymous informant contacted the Department of Health Services last April, claiming an employee was altering pay stubs and checks. Investigators then spoke to the employee's supervisor, who discovered 6 fraudulent checks had been issued using DHS software for more than $10,000. The supervisor said the employee had access to checks before being put in envelopes, after asking to change the usual process for subsidy payments. The investigator then contacted the former employee, who allegedly admitted to having the tools to create checks, and then after being confronted about the theft said, "You're right, I don't know." Investigators then subpoenaed bank records and found an additional 31 fraudulent checks, the employee allegedly forging signatures of 30 program clients, the total theft totaling more than $50,000. The Department of Health Services declined our request for an on-camera interview, citing an open investigation by the Office of the Inspector General, which they say will have 2 final reports, one on the theft and the other on the internal administration of the AIDS and HIV subsidy program.
This has been one of those programs that's been absolutely critical to the fight against AIDS.
AIDS Resource Center of Wisconsin's Bill Keaton says the program has saved thousands of lives of those living with HIV and AIDS in the state and cannot fathom the theft.
It's unfortunate, and it's hard to believe that this is something that could happen. Was relieved to hear that the department was taking immediate steps as soon as they started to find out about it.
News 3 is not naming the employee because they haven't yet been officially charged by the district attorney's office. That person is not in custody and was fired by DHS last year and did not return our phone calls today. Dane County District Attorney Ishmael Ozan tells News 3 his office is reviewing the case for a potential charging decision, but had no timeline for when that may happen. They received the case from Capitol Police on February 16th.
All right, we'll learn more in the month ahead or so. Jess, thank you very much.